Hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Santa Cruz County, Crossroads of Culture and Commerce. And this episode's a really special one because it's just a friends and family episode. We just have all of the people, the wonderful friends and family that are working on this incredible Santa Cruz County history exhibition. And so I'm going to pitch it over to my companion here, Aisa, to introduce a new member of our exhibition family.
So here in the show and in the superintendent's office, we're super excited to welcome Mr. Juan Miguel Garcia, who's our new assistant coordinator of history and the humanities. And we'll let him tell you a little bit about what that is.
Hi. I guess I should start by saying that I got involved with the art scene here in Nogales about 2 years ago. First at La Linea, and then I started attending openings and events, and later this year with the Whitner, which is the museum where, and sort of seeing all of that revolution from behind the scenes made me love it. And it just so happened that this position became available, and I had 3 different people reach out to me and said, this is like tailor-made for you, like you should apply to it. And I did, and I'm so happy that I'm here to assist in this history art project in any way I can.
Oh, we're delighted to have you. And so Juan Miguel is going to be working with the schools and kind of connecting the schools to the history exhibit. So the real goal with this exhibition is also to really kind of leverage all of the content creators, all the local history experts, archaeologists, culture enthusiasts, and really have them contribute to the project. And so I think this is going to be such a celebration of the county because we really have all the best elements of people from the county and from the state that have something to say about this fascinating region, this fascinating crossroads that we live in. And I think it's so great that you kind of alluded to this art scene, and Evan and Aisa are so much involved into this. What I really see is this kind of neo-renaissance that's happening here in Nogales, this kind of looking within, reawakening, and rediscovering what we have here. And I think that idea of rediscovering what we have already is really integral to this as well. In our last episode, we just talked to Manfred Kripe, and we learned that he was the first one person to introduce soccer to Santa Cruz County. Like, who'd have thought, being so close to Mexico? And so I think a lot of that is going to be in kind of this idea of rediscovery. Yeah.
Or even that. I mean, just listening to his stories, it was like, how many other stories like that are there out there that we don't know about? And I think part of this whole movement has been exhuming those life experiences that we just don't know about.
Totally. One thing that I don't think the community knows completely about, but everybody is really asking about, is who's that beautiful woman on the La Cinderella, the beautiful new mural that we have in town. So I think we have someone here that can probably talk about that. We have Mr. Evan Corey right here.
Big hint, it's not Frida Kahlo.
Thank you, yes. Uh-huh.
So the woman painted on the side of Cinderella is my grandmother, Evelia Corey, who started La Cinderella with my grandfather Alex in 1947.
Wow.
And since we just passed the 75th anniversary of the store, my mom really wanted to paint her portrait. And my mom, Sandra, is an artist and has painted a few murals around Morley Avenue, and this one was just a big undertaking. And to do it, she worked with Tony Plack. So together, they combined forces and created that beautiful homage to our grandmother, Evelia.
Wow. No,
Yeah.
and she's the one that actually came up with the name for the store, right? Originally.
Correct.
Yeah. La Cinderella.
Yeah, and the La was a very important part to it, I think, because after when the Disney movie came out, the La is what separated. It was before the Disney movie, before the Disney movie came out that they named the store from the Grimm's fairy tales.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the public reaction been like since the mural's been on the side there?
Well, anytime a mural goes up, it has a way of reinvigorating the area, I think, and people can't help but look. Like you just can't help but turn around and see what's happening. So I think the reaction has been very positive. My mom was painting there early in the mornings, 5, 6 a.m. sometimes. Wow. And a lot of people walk early in the mornings down here. So they'd stop, bring her coffee, bring her pastries. Nice. And so it's been really nice to see and to be able to talk about our grandmother too. Sure. It's very special. The reason she has the flowers and the elaborate accessories is because she used to dress up a lot for family parties and perform, like lip syncing. Oh, wow. And so I think in that instance, she was being like Carmen Miranda. That was the. Oh, wow. So we have an old photograph of her. It was that's the photograph that we used to paint that. There.
It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. And so you also alluded to the fact that most of these murals have been binational. There's been an artist, your mom on this side, and Tony Plack on the other side. Is that the case? Most of the murals down here, or?
I mean, I think a lot of the artists identify with both sides of the border, or this idea of ambos. But for the Anza mural, we've really tried to focus on getting artists from both sides of the line, or that can create this homage to the connection that we have despite the border, which I think is really important.
And that actually has to do with something that how you guys originally met too, right? The kind of, countering the border with culture and art. I think that story is so worth telling. Could you explain that, please?
So in 2019, in the spring, I believe, was it?
18.
Oh, 18?
Midterm, yeah.
18, midterm 18. The Army National Guard came down in droves and large trucks and tons of people to put the concertina wire up very sneakily on what seemed like no notice. And it was really, really upsetting and scary, kind of, that you didn't know what was happening, and you just saw these like mass military vehicles bringing down equipment. And shortly thereafter, Evan actually posted some pictures that he had taken, I think, from Corey's.
Yeah, I was inside Corey's, the bridal store, which is where all the wire was being dropped off, right in the corner. So I took photos from the window, just because I had no idea what was happening.
Going on?
Yeah.
And we had, I think, similar reactions to this surprise that nobody was mentally prepared for. And I think, like, as much fear, there was also like sadness and disappointment, and like, this is our new front door kind of thing. And as a community, I think it changed the way that we could look at ourselves for some amount of time, and then how everyone else was looking at us. And so when Evan posted these things, the partner I had at the time was interested in making an art exhibit to speak out against that situation, kind of reclaiming the power and the narrative a little bit. And the bridal store was not the appropriate venue for the political content of the art project we were hoping to achieve at the time. But because of that, Evan recommended, like, go check out these other buildings on Morley, and we ended up finding the La Frontera building, which is now La Línea, who was owned by Niels Ehrman at the time, and he allowed us this really great opportunity to use the space in a way that it hadn't been used for a really long time, and to create something that anyone who came to visit the border, or the tours that they were taking to gawk at the wall, that there would be something along the way for them to stop and check in and receive communication and narratives from artists and community members and people that live here, so that we could tell the story like it's more than just the concertina wire.
Yeah, it's kind of like this cultural beacon in this middle of this militarized area, and I think that's what's really making all of your work so historic as well, to kind of counter militarization with peace and culture and art as well. And you're a local artist here too. Well, how have you seen the trajectory of the art community here in Nogales, ambos Nogales?
Well, I mean, not to get all kumbaya about it, but I always joke. I seriously joke that La Línea sort of accidentally saved my life.
Wow.
I've always known about the open mic nights, and it always was posted that they ended at 8, which was when I clocked out of work. And then one night, I happened to clocked out early, and I was like, I'm just gonna walk in, and I'm just gonna see if there's still people around. And I remember Aisa was there, and a couple of other people were there, and it was just like right away such a welcoming environment. And that was back in, like, I want to say 2021, 20. and you know, I was just talking with Aisa, and so she goes like, "Are you an artist?" And at that time, I was not feeling it. Did not felt that I had the right to say that I am. And well, you know, it's something that I do. It's something that it's a hobby. And she goes, "No, you are, own it."
You need someone to tell you sometimes. Yeah.
And so from that first meeting, I started going to all the events, all the open mics, and eventually it so happened that Aisa asks, "How would you feel about having a show here?" And both my sister and I were painters. We're both artists, and I was like, "Well, can we do it together?" And so this year in January, we had our first exhibition, and it's been nothing but positive things come from embracing this art movement.
Yeah. No, I remember your exhibition and just commented about. I still remember it, 6 months later. And so I think, I thank you guys all for offering something that's totally opposite of what you expect here in Nogales, based on what you see on the news media. I think it's so necessary. It's really a remedy for it all. But one of the things that we want to talk about, talking about morally and stuff, is how it's changed. And today you brought along some of these postcards. Yeah. And so since we're talking about La Linea, Cinderella, Corey's Bridal Shop, this is all where a lot of these postcards are just in, a stone's throw away from there, right?
Yeah. Well, so one of my favorite hobbies is collecting these old postcards that are actual photographs that, in the early 1900s and for 50 years or so were very popular. There was like a postcard craze in the early part of the century. And what's great about them is that they're wonderful primary sources where you can see what the border looked like, at a certain point in time, and they're unaltered. Yeah. And so I find them fascinating, especially for Morley, because there's such a rich history here. Yeah. And like speaking about the concertina wire, and I mean, that's a moment in history as well of what happened at the border. And if we don't know where it came from, and we don't know where we're going either, right? Truly. So that's part of the reason why I just love them. And they're online. You can buy them on eBay, and they're everywhere, And so I brought a few. These 4 are of the international line. So this one is of one of the obelisks that used to be the only international marker of the border. Yeah. So this is around the 1910s, 1915 Mexican Revolution, and there's a Mexican soldier and an American soldier, and they're standing next to the Monument 122, which is right there. And when you cross the Morley Gate into Calle Elias, it's there because both governments agreed to protect the monuments. So all the obelisks still go from California all the way to Texas. Wow. And we have 3 of them here in Nogales. I believe it's 121, 122, and 123.
23, yeah. There's one a little bit further west over here. Right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so this is this one.
Beautiful. It's an iconic image of Nogales with the 2 soldiers. Yeah.
Yeah. And then this is before any wire fence went up. It's international. And we've got the Camus building, which is still there.
Still there.
And what was the Concordia Hotel on Calle Elias.
That was the one that burned down, and that famous cross-border image, right? With the
fire truck that came, and that's an incredible photo.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can show it in this
show.
We'll
plan on showing this one too. Yeah. The border without any semblance of wall or fence.
Yeah. This one you can read where it says the Concordia. And what I love about these images is that it shows how Calle Elias and Morley were really one street. that just continued in both directions. In this fourth one, it's when they built the current structure that's there. And you can see in the far right corner the Fray Marcos being built. So I think that was like 1949 or so? 48?
Yeah, I think it would have been right around there because the 50s is when it was inaugurated. Yeah, this is the old port, the French term port cocher, where the
exactly.
Now it's pedestrian only, right, to walk through there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I remember even just 10 years ago or so, where it was open air still.
Oh, they
now of course it's caged, and there's the concertina wire, and it is what it is. I mean, we've been, as a community, I've been very surprised how quickly we got over it. You know what I mean? Like, at first it was an outrage, and like we couldn't believe that this was the face of our community at the border, but somehow we overcame it, I think, and we didn't stop us from loving the border and loving what we're all about here.
Nogales have thick,
we have thick skin.
Yeah,
for
sure.
So those four that we can share.
Wow.
And then these are a bunch of Morley cards that show
It's an amazing one right there.
Morley through the years. And what's interesting about them is that, like in this one, you have the Montezuma Hotel, which was a tufa stone structure, the first one, just like the 1904 courthouse and many of the historic homes downtown. And these elaborate facades. And the French roof, exactly.
Yeah, and now there's just the little plaque that mentions the Montezuma Hotel. That's the only frame of reference nowadays for that.
Yeah, they remodeled it in the 30s, I think.
Oh, wow.
Which is the current building that's there, which is an E shape. But that was also, beautiful too.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't there like the one of the seats that was at that hotel at the Primaria Alta?
Yeah, from the lobby.
There's a big seat or something.
Yeah, beautiful wood lobby seat that used to be there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's at the Primaria Alta Museum.
Wow. When was that demolished? Do you know?
It must have been in the 20s.
In the 20s,
maybe
demolished?
early 30s.
Wow, so quite early it was demolished.
Yeah, but these are all Morley Avenue cards, and the Cinderella building has been many things. It was a barber shop, a restaurant, several different banks. Like this was the Nogales Bank.
Wasn't it also at one point like the newspaper office?
What was a
Or is
Western
that like
Union?
an urban legend?
No, it's an urban legend. No, yeah, it was a Western Union, which is this one. And it was also a produce office, where upstairs they had the produce office. This is one of La Cinderella in 1949, which is interesting. You can see the Crest building, the Capin's El Paso store, Brackers, La Via de Paris, Saldamando drugstore.
Yeah, the original facade of the Via de Paris was incredible. They just must have put that concrete over it all,
Yeah, and they added I think an extra floor or two.
An extra floor as well.
Yeah.
Wow. Have you been inside there?
It's been many years. As a little kid, I went. Yeah.
It's just been shuttered, or wow.
Pretty much, yeah. But yeah, all of these buildings down here have so much history, and like the building we're in right now, the Whitmer Museum, was a cigar factory, Las Dos Naciones. And one of the great things about the art movement, I think, is that we're kind of reclaiming the buildings and embracing the history of them.
Sure. Yeah.
If La Linea Art Studio opened on Mariposa Road next to Panda Express, or it'd be a very different feeling, right?
Absolutely.
Like somehow, when there's been generations that have lived in these buildings and worked in them, it gives it a different energy to them, and I love it because it seems to be growing, and even though downtown has suffered a lot, there's opportunity now to reinvent it.
Absolutely.
And that's what I see happening, and I'm happy to be part of it.
I think you're on the forefront. I think we're all on the forefront of a really great, amazing renaissance here, and to see all of this, I think in a way is really trying to honor that past that we have as well, and the people that made Nogales and Santa Cruz County. Can you speak a little bit about how your family is one of the big names here on Morley Avenue? Could you speak to how did the Coreys arrive here in Nogales first?
Sure. So my grandfather Alex is of Lebanese descent, and his parents immigrated through Ellis Island in New York.
Wow.
And then shortly after that, my grandfather was born. And what happened was my grandfather and his siblings, each one of them went to a different border town.
Oh, wow.
To start businesses, to start retail stores. So this was in the 40s, mid to early 40s. And my grandfather, being the youngest, was sent to Nogales because it was the smallest town.
It was the smallest thing.
Yeah.
I just got the smallest.
Yeah, but he always said Nogales is a big secret, like,
It is.
and he loved Nogales, and opened La Cinderella with my grandmother, who was a puchi, who had the grocery stores. She was a butcher too.
A butcher,
kind of fun.
wow.
Yeah, but so my grandfather started it with my grandmother in 1947. That's when La Cinderella opened. And 20 years after that, they opened Corey's, the bridal store. And and we've been here ever since.
Wow.
And that's one of the neat things about Morley Avenue, is that really it was immigrants that came and started businesses and became invested in the town. When you think of like the Capons and the Brackers and the Marcus and all these Jewish families that were able to come to this Mexican community, embrace who they are and embrace who the community is, and it's just a wonderful American story, right? Of like what it is to be American and to make your life here.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
So Morley has, there's actually other Lebanese people like the Karam, so Karam Park.
Yeah.
Nasib Karam had a store on Morley, and the park on Morley is named after him.
Yeah. And he was like city attorney, I believe, at one point as well. Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. And then you look at all the Korean merchants that came.
Yeah.
So it's been incredible, very international.
Yeah.
And Nogales, Sonora, what I'm seeing too is that's becoming very international too, with all the people that are coming there to start businesses. And so it's just we're in an interesting spot here, and it's not. A lot of people think of it as a little town, but there's people from all over the world that end up living here and doing what they love.
Totally. And I think Nogales is just like your grandfather said, is just a real big secret. If you spend any time here and you can really, put a little bit of roots here, I think people have no reason to go anywhere else after living here. It's really a wonderful place. And to be at this crossroads, I think, is really that idea is really at the heart of this exhibition, and at the heart of a lot of the pull of a lot of migrants that came here is, crossroads of culture and commerce. As well. So thank you so much for sharing about how the Coreys arrived here.
My pleasure.
I'm a big fan of tacos árabes in Mexico, the Arabic tacos, al pastor. We have the Lebanese to thank for, so next time you're passing by Coreys, make sure you thank them.
Nice.
But I think this has been a great episode. We've covered quite a bit. Juan Miguel, we've covered the murals, it's not Frida, and we've also covered this incredible story of the postcards, which is kind of a point of reference for us nowadays of what was here in Nogales and what can be in the future as well. So I want to thank all of you guys for joining us for this edition of Santa Cruz County Crossroads of Culture and Commerce.
Thank you,
See you
Alex.
next time. Thank
Thanks.
you.